The sun had just set over Earth, but the world was far from peaceful. Tension filled the air as representatives from the most powerful factions of the galaxy gathered in the Grand Hall on Earth's capital. The Galactic Council had summoned Earth to this meeting, and the fate of the entire planet hung in the balance. The Council was not known for making empty threats, and everyone in the room knew it. In the center of the vast chamber stood the leaders of Earth. These were the men and women chosen to represent humanity's best interests on the galactic stage. They were seated in a circle, facing an enormous holographic projection of the Galactic Council. The hologram flickered as images of the different species, each more powerful and ancient than the next, appeared before them. At the head of the projection, the Council's supreme speaker, a towering alien known as Ythar, spoke with a cold, unfeeling voice. His species had ruled over many worlds for centuries, and they viewed Earth as a young and immature planet. Their patience was running thin. Humanity has shown great potential, Ythar began, his voice booming across the room. But your recent actions have raised questions. The Galactic Council has extended its hand to you, and yet you continue to defy us. His words echoed in the chamber, making it clear that the Council was not interested in negotiations. You are a growing threat, and unless you adhere to our laws and guidance, there will be consequences. The Earth leaders exchanged uneasy glances. They had heard rumors of the Council's displeasure, but hearing it directly was something else entirely. The Council had long been the governing body of the galaxy, and their rules were absolute. Breaking those rules was not just risky, it was a declaration of war. A young Earth representative, Anna Williams, nervously adjusted her glasses. She had only recently been appointed to the Council, but she already understood the gravity of the situation. Supreme Speaker Ythar, she said, her voice firm despite the nervousness that trembled in her chest. We respect the Galactic Council, but Earth cannot blindly follow every rule without understanding the reason behind them. We have our own vision for the future, and we believe our independence is essential for our survival. Ythar's eyes narrowed as he studied Anna. Independence, he repeated, as if the word tasted foreign to him. You are a species of children, playing with fire you do not understand. The Council has protected you, guided you, for years. And yet, you choose to turn your back on us. That is a grave mistake. Another voice interrupted from the side of the room. A man named Marcus, an older diplomat known for his calm demeanor. Supreme Speaker, we ask only for a chance to explain, he said, trying to defuse the situation. We are not rejecting your authority outright. We simply wish for more freedom to make decisions that directly affect our planet. The Council's rules are too restrictive. Freedom, Ythar scoffed. You cannot have true freedom without order. Without the Council's guidance, chaos will reign. You will be crushed under the weight of forces much greater than you can imagine. The universe will swallow you whole. Do you not understand the power you are defying? The air in the room grew thicker, filled with an unbearable pressure. Anna could feel the weight of Ythar's words hanging over her like a storm cloud. The Council was not threatening them lightly. This wasn't just a warning. This was the beginning of something much darker. As the Supreme Speaker spoke, images of past galactic uprisings flashed on the holographic screen behind him. Planets torn apart, civilizations wiped off the map. It was a reminder of the Council's overwhelming might. No one could stand against them, or so it seemed. We have tolerated your disobedience for too long, Ythar continued, his voice turning colder with each word. The choice is simple. You will either fall in line with the rest of the galaxy, or you will face the consequences. The Galactic Council has decided, and there is no turning back now. Anna's heart pounded in her chest. What they were hearing was clear. Earth had only two options now. Submit to the Galactic Council or face their wrath. There was no room for negotiation. The universe watched as the young planet stood at the crossroads of its future. Suddenly, the room fell silent. The representatives of Earth exchanged nervous looks. What could they do? The power of the Galactic Council was unimaginable. They were not just facing a government. They were up against an empire, an ancient power that had shaped the galaxy for millennia. One by one, the other Earth leaders stood. Some were visibly shaken, others deep in thought. But Anna saw something else in their eyes: determination. Despite the fear, despite the danger, they were not willing to give up just yet. They would fight for their independence, no matter the cost. Supreme Speaker, Anna spoke again, her voice steady. We understand the consequences of our actions, but we believe that humanity can no longer live under the control of a distant power. We are ready to face whatever comes, even if it means standing alone. Yither's expression remained emotionless. Very well, he said coldly. The Galactic Council will take no more questions. You have made your decision. We will see you on the battlefield. With that, the holographic projection flickered out. The Earth leaders stood in stunned silence, the weight of the moment sinking in. Earth had just made its choice. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain: the universe was no longer a peaceful place for humanity. As the meeting ended, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The Galactic Council had made their threat clear, and now the universe was waiting to see if Earth would stand firm or crumble under the pressure. The moment the meeting with the Galactic Council ended, the air on Earth seemed to grow heavier. As the representatives filed out of the Grand Chamber, each face was filled with a mix of uncertainty, anger, and disbelief. The Council had made their position clear: submit or face the consequences. Earth had chosen the path of defiance, and now there was no turning back. In the days that followed, the planet was in a frenzy. News outlets broadcasted the Galactic Council's ultimatum across every screen, sparking debates and panic alike. Some saw the Council's words as a wake-up call to unite, while others believed humanity should have never been under the Council's rule in the first place. Across the globe, millions held their breath, wondering what would happen next. Behind closed doors, Earth's leaders gathered in secrecy. The weight of their decision was evident in their strained expressions. Marcus, the seasoned diplomat who had always been the voice of reason, spoke first. We've crossed a line, and we cannot go back. The Council's power is unmatched, but we can't let fear control us. We have to prepare for what's coming. His voice was steady, but Anna, sitting across from him, couldn't help but feel the underlying panic in his words. She had never imagined it would come to this: a war with the Galactic Council. The thought seemed almost absurd, yet here they were, facing the consequences of a decision that could cost them everything. Marcus is right, another leader, General Vaughn, added. The Council won't stop at threats. They will come for us, and we need to be ready. But we also need to understand the stakes. We can't just fight blindly. We need a strategy. His words were sharp, precise, but there was a nervous edge to them. General Vaughn had led many campaigns on Earth, but this was different. This wasn't a battle against alien invaders or rogue factions. This was a war with the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Anna could feel the weight of the room pressing down on her. As the youngest member of the Council, she had often felt like an outsider, unsure of her place among these seasoned veterans. But now, it wasn't her age that mattered. It was her ideas. She had been working on something in secret for weeks, a plan that could change everything. There's one thing we haven't considered, she said, her voice cutting through the tense silence. The Council's power is vast, but it's not unlimited. We have one advantage: they underestimate us. Humanity has been under their thumb for far too long. They don't realize how far we've come. We may be a young species, but we have ingenuity, and that's something they've never accounted for. The room fell silent. Anna's words hung in the air, and for the first time in days, she saw something shift in the faces around her. It was as if a flicker of hope had sparked in the darkness. "What are you suggesting?" Marcus asked, his voice quiet but intrigued. "We need to create alliances," Anna continued. "Not with the Council, but with those who oppose them. There are factions out there who've been waiting for someone to challenge the Council's rule. If we can form the right alliances, we won't be fighting alone. but we need to move quickly. We can't let the Council catch us off guard." There was a murmur of agreement, but also skepticism. General Vaughn shook his head. "It's a risk. These factions could just as easily turn on us. They've been at odds with the Council for centuries, but we have no idea what they truly want. We could be walking into a trap." "I'm aware of the risks," Anna replied, her voice unwavering. "But we don't have a choice. We can't defeat the Council on our own. We need their strength, their resources, and if we can outsmart them, if we can show the universe that Earth is more than just a pawn in their game, we might have a chance." There was a long pause. The leaders exchanged looks, each one weighing the decision. Finally, Marcus spoke. "All right, we'll try, but we'll need everything. Diplomatic efforts, intelligence, weapons. We have to be prepared for the worst." The meeting ended with a sense of grim determination. Anna knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but it was the only path left. The Council's superweapon was real, and its power could obliterate entire planets. Earth needed allies, and fast. The days of relying on the Council were over. Now, humanity would have to fight not just for survival, but for its place in the galaxy. And the universe would soon learn that when pushed to the edge, humanity would do whatever it took to protect itself. As Anna left the chamber, she couldn't shake the feeling that something even darker loomed on the horizon. The Council's fury was just beginning to stir, and soon, Earth would find itself in the heart of a galactic conflict unlike anything it had ever known. The countdown had begun, and time was running out. The days following Earth's declaration of defiance were filled with a sense of urgency that swept across the planet. News networks broadcasted the messages from the Galactic Council, and everywhere people discussed the impending crisis. There was no shortage of fear. Some saw this as the beginning of Earth's end, while others took it as a call to arms. Earth had declared independence from the Galactic Council, and now the universe would be watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Behind the scenes, Earth's leaders worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable response from the Council. The decision had been made. There was no going back. As much as they feared the consequences, they were equally determined not to bow down. But the question remained, could Earth truly stand against an empire as ancient and powerful as the Galactic Council? And more importantly, would anyone come to their aid? Anna Williams, though young, had quickly become one of the most vocal members of Earth's Council. While others debated the intricacies of defense strategies and alliances, she found herself focused on something more troubling. What if the Council retaliates in ways we can't predict? The Council had never truly been challenged before. There had been uprisings, certainly, but nothing like this. Nothing on Earth's scale. And the superweapon the Council possessed. No one knew its full power, but the destruction it could cause was unimaginable. One evening, as Anna stood in her office, she stared at a large screen showing the latest updates from the Council. Yithar's image flickered across the screen, his icy gaze fixed on the camera. His warning still echoed in her mind. The choice is simple: submit or face the consequences. The Council's threat was clear, but there was something more disturbing beneath the surface. The Council wasn't just threatening Earth, it was making an example of them. Earth was to be punished for daring to defy the established order. And the message was not just for humanity. It was for every other species in the galaxy. In the middle of the chaos, whispers of a secret faction began to surface. These were alien species who had once been aligned with the Council, but over the years, they had grown disillusioned with the Galactic Council's iron-fisted rule. Now, they were looking for a new ally, someone strong enough to challenge the Council's power. Earth could be that ally. But could they trust these factions? These were creatures who had lived in the shadows of the Council, silently biding their time. Would they turn on Earth once their own interests were served, or could Earth forge a true alliance? Anna wasn't sure, but she knew that Earth's survival depended on the choices made in the coming days. Time was running out, and the Council's reaction had already begun to take shape. Unknown ships were spotted moving towards Earth's borders, massive war fleets, dark and foreboding. Their intentions clear. The first attack would come soon. The only question was where and how devastating it would be. General Vaughn, the leader of Earth's military forces, was quick to prepare. Earth's defense systems were upgraded to their maximum capacity, but it was clear that Earth could not face the full might of the Galactic Council alone. If they were going to survive, they would need help. "We have to reach out to those factions," General Vaughn said as he sat across from Anna and Marcus in the war room. "We need to act now, before it's too late." Anna nodded, her thoughts racing. "We'll send emissaries to the factions we know are against the Council. They'd been waiting for an opportunity, and this might be it. If they can help us fight off the Council's fleet, we might just stand a chance." "Do we really think they'll come to our aid?" Marcus asked, his voice tinged with doubt. "Some of these factions have been enemies of the Council for centuries. They may want revenge, but that doesn't mean they'll fight for us. What if they see us as just another pawn to use?" Anna took a deep breath, knowing that they had no other option. "We have no choice. If we don't act, the Council will crush us, and the rest of the galaxy will remain under their control. We have to make a stand. This is our chance to prove we're not just a weak, young species. We're more than that." As the military worked to prepare Earth's defenses, Anna, Marcus, and the rest of the Council reached out to the secretive factions scattered across the galaxy. These were species who had long resisted the Council's tyranny, but their power was spread thin, and their influence had waned over time. Some were wary of Earth's intentions, but Anna's words resonated. Humanity had shown courage in the face of an impossible challenge. And though it was a risk, some factions agreed to meet with Earth representatives in secret. But even as alliances began to form, the threat of the Council's fleet loomed large. Earth had just a few weeks, maybe even days, before the Council's forces would arrive in full force. The final decision was made. Earth would not submit. They would fight. They would fight with every resource, every weapon, and every ally they could muster. But the stakes were higher than anyone realized. This was more than just a battle for Earth's survival. It was a battle for the future of the galaxy itself. The first signs of the Council's arrival came when strange ships appeared at the edges of Earth's solar system. These ships weren't the usual patrols or scouts. These were warships, massive, silent, and ominous. The fleet was vast, and the galaxy's most advanced military technology was aboard these ships. Earth was about to face a force unlike anything it had ever encountered. Soon, the countdown would be over. The universe was on the edge of a war that could reshape everything. And for the first time in its history, Earth was standing at the front lines. The universe was about to witness the true power of humanity. Would Earth survive? Or would it become another forgotten planet in the wake of the Council's wrath? Ace, the warships from the Galactic Council loomed closer to Earth. The tension on the planet reached a boiling point. The massive fleet, hovering just beyond the outer reaches of Earth's atmosphere, sent waves of fear across every nation. People watched the skies, their eyes filled with a mix of dread and defiance, knowing that the fate of their world rested in the hands of their leaders. Earth had rejected the Council's authority, and now, the Council would make them pay. But amid the chaos, something unexpected began to unfold. Earth had been reaching out to secretive factions, alien species who had long resisted the Galactic Council's oppressive rule. These factions, spread throughout the galaxy, had little love for the Council, but had never been able to mount a unified challenge. Until now, Earth's bold stand had caught their attention, and it was clear they were willing to take a risk. They would help Earth, but not out of charity. They too had something to prove, that the Council's grip on the galaxy could be broken. Anna Williams, the young representative from Earth, found herself in the center of this whirlwind. In just a few short days, she had gone from being an unknown voice to one of Earth's most powerful diplomats. Her plan was simple yet risky: form alliances with these disillusioned factions and turn them into a fighting force. Together, they could challenge the Council and survive. But it wouldn't be easy. The factions Earth was negotiating with had their own agendas, and some were more than willing to betray humanity if the opportunity arose. One such faction, the Zitharians, had a reputation for being merciless and calculating. They had their own reasons for hating the Council, but they saw Earth's struggle as a potential stepping stone to their own rise to power. Anna knew the Zitharians would be dangerous allies, but without their advanced technology and resources, Earth had little chance of winning. As Anna sat in a small, dimly lit meeting room in a hidden base deep in Earth's mountains, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The Zitharians were an intimidating species, tall, armored beings with pale, almost translucent skin, and eyes that glowed with an eerie light. Their leader, Korath, sat across from Anna, his gaze fixed on her as if evaluating her every word. "We are willing to help," Korath said, his voice deep and cold. "But understand this. We have no loyalty to your world. The only thing that matters to us is the destruction of the Galactic Council. If your enemies prove to be more useful than you, we will side with them." Anna nodded, maintaining her composure. "We understand. But if you help us, we'll help you. The Council's downfall means freedom for all those under their control." Korath tilted his head slightly. "Freedom? Or is it just another form of control, a new order in which you, Earth, become the masters?" His eyes burned with suspicion. "Don't think we don't understand how power works." Anna clenched her fists, but she stayed calm. "It's not about power. It's about survival. The Council is coming for all of us, and if we don't stand together, none of us will survive. We need to end this now, or the galaxy will fall under the Council's rule forever." The Zitharian leader remained silent for a long moment, his eyes never leaving Anna's. Finally, he spoke again. "We will join you, Earth, but remember, we are not doing this for you. We are doing this for ourselves." It was a hard truth to accept, but Anna knew it was the best deal she could get. The Zitharians had the weapons, the ships, and the strategic knowledge that Earth desperately needed. But the price was steep. There was no telling how much control the Zitharians would demand once the war was over. Yet, as Anna left the meeting room, she couldn't afford to think about that now. She had made the alliance, and the next step was clear. They had to act fast. The first phase of the plan was to coordinate a strike on the Council's fleet before they could fully establish themselves in Earth's orbit. Using the Zitharian ships and technology, Earth's military and its new allies would launch a surprise assault, aimed directly at the flagship of the Galactic Council. If they could destroy the flagship, the rest of the fleet might retreat, and Earth would have a fighting chance. It was a bold move, and it was their only shot at buying enough time to turn the tide. General Vaughn, who had been overseeing Earth's military preparations, met with Anna just hours before the strike. His face was a mixture of determination and worry. "This is it," he said. "We've got one shot at this. If we fail, there will be no turning back." Anna nodded. "We're ready. We have to be." But as the ships prepared to launch, something unexpected happened. The Council fleet, despite its size, didn't make a move. The silence in the air was almost unnerving. It was as though they were waiting for something. Was it a trap? Had the Council anticipated this move and set up a counterattack? The uncertainty gnawed at Anna, but she couldn't afford to hesitate now. If they waited any longer, Earth's defenses would be overrun. The countdown to launch began, and with it, a wave of anticipation washed over everyone. Earth's fleet, led by the Zitharian ships, readied their weapons. The first wave would be an all-out assault, a desperate bid to weaken the Council's forces before they could retaliate with their superweapon. The skies above Earth darkened as the warships launched into space, their engines roaring with power. The battle that followed was chaotic, with ships weaving through bursts of laser fire and explosions, lighting up the void of space. Earth's forces were fighting with everything they had, but the sheer might of the Council's fleet was overwhelming. It seemed as though every move Earth made was countered with a devastating strike. But just when it seemed like Earth might be on the verge of defeat, a series of unexpected explosions erupted across the Council's fleet. The Zetharians had followed through on their promise, using their advanced technology to disable several of the Council's key warships, including the flagship. It was a turning point. The Council's fleet faltered, and for the first time, Earth had the upper hand. The fight was far from over, but this victory, though small, gave humanity hope. They weren't alone in this fight, and they weren't powerless. Earth had allies, fierce, unpredictable, and dangerous. But they had allies. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and Earth had just made its first strike. But even as Earth celebrated this small victory, the Council was far from defeated. The war was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than anyone could imagine. The galaxy was in chaos, and soon, the true nature of the conflict would reveal itself. Could Earth and its new allies hold their ground, or would they be crushed under the weight of the Council's wrath? Time would tell. But for now, humanity had shown the universe something it had never seen before: the courage to fight for its own future. And that courage would be put to the ultimate test. The aftermath of the battle above Earth was both a victory and a bitter reminder of what lay ahead. Though the first strike had been successful, damaging several key ships in the Galactic Council's fleet, there was no time to rest. The Council's response was swift and brutal, and they would not let a small setback deter them. Earth had gained a fleeting advantage, but the Council was far from defeated. It was only a matter of time before they retaliated in full force. In the days following the skirmish, Earth's leaders met in a war room deep beneath the planet's surface. The walls were lined with holographic maps of Earth's defenses, the movements of the Council's fleet, and the potential positions of their new allies. The atmosphere was tense. General Vaughn and Anna Williams stood in the center of the room, surrounded by military officials and diplomats. The entire fate of humanity rested on their next move, and the stakes were higher than ever. "We've done well so far," General Vaughn said, his voice steady but laced with concern. "But we're playing a dangerous game. The Council won't let this slip through their fingers. They'll regroup and come back stronger than before. We can't afford to let our guard down." Anna nodded, absorbing his words. Her mind raced as she thought about the next step. They had disrupted the Council's fleet, yes, but they still had no idea what the full extent of their forces was. Worse still, there was the superweapon the Council had hinted at, a weapon that could decimate entire planets. If the Council unleashed that, Earth would stand no chance, no matter how many alliances they had formed. "We need to act fast," Anna said, her voice firm. "We have no way of knowing when the Council will regroup, but we do know they'll want revenge. If we can hit them harder, while they're still recovering, we might have a chance to destroy their superweapon. Once that's gone, their power will be significantly weakened. Without it, they'll be vulnerable. We've already used everything we have." Marcus, one of Earth's diplomats, spoke up from the corner of the room, his face shadowed with doubt. "What if the Council doesn't have just one superweapon? What if they have more? We're not ready for a prolonged war." "I know," Anna said, pacing as she spoke. "That's why we need to strike again. But this time we need more than just military force. We need intelligence. If we can locate their weapons before they can use them, we'll have a fighting chance." A general from Earth's Defense Forces, Colonel Drake, spoke next. "We have reports that the Council has been consolidating resources at several undisclosed locations, most likely to build up their forces. We believe the superweapon is stationed somewhere in their central command, but we don't know where exactly. Our scouts haven't been able to get close enough to confirm." "Then we'll find it," Anna said, her eyes narrowing. "We can't rely on just one attack. We need to hit them from all sides. The factions we've allied with have their own sources of intelligence. It's time we use every piece of that information. We can't wait for them to come to us." There was a tense silence in the room as everyone absorbed the magnitude of the decision. Earth's position was precarious, and there was no certainty that the plan would succeed. But Anna knew they had no choice. The Council's superweapon, if fully activated, would be the end of them all. If Earth failed to destroy it first, the galaxy would fall into chaos, and Earth would be nothing more than a footnote in history. The plan, however, was not without its risks. They would have to infiltrate a heavily guarded Council outpost, one that was likely equipped with both advanced technology and elite soldiers. It would be a mission fraught with danger, but it was their only hope. The Allied factions had already agreed to send their best operatives, but even with their help, Anna knew that they would be facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. The preparations began immediately. Anna and General Vaughn began coordinating with the different factions, getting their ships and forces into position. The Zitharians, who had proven to be both powerful and ruthless, were ready to strike at the heart of the Council's command. They would be key to the operation's success, but Anna couldn't ignore the fact that their motives might not align entirely with Earth's. The Zitharians had been clear. They were fighting for their own freedom, and if Earth's cause no longer served their interests, they wouldn't hesitate to turn against them. The risks were high, but they had no other choice. As the night before the mission dawned, Anna stood outside in a quiet corner of the base, looking up at the stars. For the first time in days, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. The galaxy seemed so vast and distant, and yet, here they were, on the brink of something that could either save or doom everything they knew. Earth had chosen a path of defiance, but that path was leading them into uncharted territory. She thought about the millions of people who were depending on her decisions, people who had no idea how close they were to the edge of annihilation. It was a heavy burden, but it was also a reminder of what she was fighting for. Not just her own survival, but the survival of her world, her people, and their future. The sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. Marcus had arrived, his expression unreadable. He stood beside her for a moment, silent, before speaking. "We've done everything we can," he said quietly. "Tomorrow will determine the course of our future. If we succeed, we may have a shot at ending this war before it gets worse. If we fail..." Anna didn't need him to finish the sentence. The reality of failure was too terrible to contemplate. She turned to face him, her voice soft but resolute. "We won't fail," she said firmly. "We can't." With that, the two of them turned and headed back to the command center. The mission would begin at dawn. The Council would soon realize that Earth was no longer the helpless, naive planet it once had been. It was a world ready to fight back, against overwhelming odds, against impossible threats, and Earth would show the galaxy just how far humanity would go to protect its future. The dawn of the mission arrived with a heavy silence. Earth's forces were ready, the Allied factions in place, and the final details of the operation had been ironed out in secrecy. Anna Williams stood at the heart of the command center, staring at the array of holographic maps and data streams. The tension in the air was palpable. The plan was set: a coordinated strike against the Galactic Council's Central Command outpost, where their superweapon was believed to be stored. If they succeeded, the Council would be thrown into disarray, and Earth would have the upper hand in the war. If they failed, the consequences were too horrifying to consider. General Vaughn stood beside Anna, his face grim, his mind clearly on the same high-stakes game. "All ships are in position," he said quietly. "The Zitharians have their best operatives ready to infiltrate the command center. Our fleet is prepped to provide cover and assault any Council forces that attempt to stop them. We'll hit hard and fast." Anna nodded, though a knot of uncertainty twisted in her stomach. This was the critical moment. The mission depended on speed and precision. They couldn't afford to make a mistake. "We'll need to be in and out before the Council can retaliate," Anna said. "Once we destroy this superweapon, the rest of their fleet will be much easier to manage. The Zitharians should be able to hack into their systems and disable their defenses while we hit the target." Vaughn's eyes narrowed as he glanced over the mission outline. "This is more than just a strike against the weapon. If we take down the Council's command post, We may scatter their leadership. It could weaken their entire military structure. But there's a risk. The Council may have anticipated something like this. I know, Anna said, taking a deep breath. That's why we need to act now. The longer we wait, the stronger they'll become. We can't afford another day of hesitation. The hours leading up to the mission were filled with final preparations. Anna stood at the heart of the war room, monitoring the movements of the Allied fleets, listening for any signs of resistance, and confirming that the Zitharians' operatives were ready. Every decision, every choice, now rested on their shoulders. Finally, the moment arrived. The mission had begun. Across the galaxy, Earth's forces and their allies moved into position. Zitharian ships, sleek and dark, streaked through space like shadows, slipping past Council patrols and avoiding detection. Earth's military forces, supported by the Zitharians' advanced technology, prepared to launch a strike on the Council's heavily guarded command station. The fate of Earth, perhaps even the fate of the entire galaxy, was in their hands. Anna's heart raced as she watched the feed from the flagship, the Ardent. The flagship was the spearhead of the operation, its sleek frame cutting through the cold vacuum of space. It was the first wave of Earth's assault, and its mission was clear: breach the Council's defenses and create a path for the rest of the forces to follow. The battle began with a sudden flash of light. Ships exploded in the distance as the first barrage of laser fire struck the Council's fleet. The sounds of battle echoed in Anna's earpiece. Explosions, the roar of engines, the crackle of radio chatter. The war had begun in full force. The Council's fleet, massive and imposing, responded quickly. Their ships turned, their weapons lighting up the void of space. Earth's forces fought back valiantly, using every trick they had learned since the first strike. The Zitharians, true to their word, were everywhere, firing from the shadows, disabling key Council ships, and providing invaluable support. Their fleet worked in tandem with Earth's, taking out Council forces at a staggering rate. But the true target was still ahead. The strike teams, made up of Earth's best soldiers and Zitharian operatives, had already breached the perimeter of the Council's command station. They had snuck through the Council's defenses, navigating the complex network of corridors and hallways deep within the heart of enemy territory. Their mission was clear: destroy the superweapon and cripple the command center. Anna's gaze remained fixed on the live feeds from the assault. The images were blurry, cut with interference as Zitharian operatives hacked into the command station's security systems. The teams were moving quickly, too quickly. They knew that the longer they stayed inside, the greater the risk of detection. "Target is in sight," a Zitharian operative's voice crackled through Anna's comms. "We've reached the super weapons core, preparing to destroy." The tension in the command center grew as the minutes dragged on. Anna gripped the edge of the console, her mind racing. This was it, the moment they'd been waiting for. The fate of Earth was tied to the success of this operation. If the superweapon was destroyed, the Council's power would be dealt a crippling blow. If they failed... Suddenly, an alarm blared, cutting through the silence. Anna's heart skipped a beat. Warning. Intruder detected. Security breach in the central core. The computer's voice blared. No. Anna breathed, her pulse quickening. The Council knows we're here. The live feed from the Zitharians flickered wildly as gunfire erupted in the background. The operatives had been discovered. A new wave of enemy forces surged toward the strike team's position. Anna could see the images. Council soldiers, heavily armored, charging down the corridors toward the core. "We've been compromised," one of the Zitharians shouted, the urgency in his voice clear. "We need backup now." A wave of panic surged through Anna as she watched the feed. The strike team was surrounded. The Zitharians were skilled fighters, but the Council had overwhelming numbers, and their soldiers were as well trained as any in the galaxy. Time was running out. General Vaughn's voice came through the comms, steady but urgent. Anna, we're sending reinforcements. Hold tight. We'll push them back. Earth's forces, already engaged in heavy fighting outside, now rallied to reinforce the strike team inside the station. Zetharian ships above launched additional attacks, laying down suppressive fire to provide cover. Minutes felt like hours. The battle raged both outside in the stars and inside the Council's fortress. Anna couldn't take her eyes off the screens. She felt helpless, every second dragging as the outcome of the operation hung in the balance. Then the comms crackled again. "Target destroyed," came the voice of the lead operative, breathless but triumphant. "The superweapon has been disabled. We've won. The Council's weapon is gone." Anna let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Relief surged through her like a tidal wave, and for a moment, she could barely process the gravity of the victory. The superweapon, Earth's most immediate threat, had been destroyed. But the war was far from over. The Council would retaliate. The stakes would only continue to rise. As the battle for the command station continued to unfold, Earth's forces, with the help of their new allies, held their ground. The Council had lost their most powerful weapon, but they would not give up easily. The final victory was still far from certain, but for the first time since the conflict began, Earth's leaders had something they had never had before: hope. The galaxy had been shaken to its core, and the true fight was just beginning.